Hi Stitchy friends, this is Heather, the 20-minute Stitcher, and you have found my little corner of the internet where I talk about my hobby of cross stitch. Sorry, the bangs are... Anyway, welcome. My pronouns are she, her. This is episode 56. Today is Sunday. Yeah, today's Sunday. Sunday, December 31st, 2023. It is New Year's Eve, and I am here with you to share my last Flosstube of 2023. I actually have a lot to share today. I'm super excited. I have FFOs, people. Literally hot off the ironing board FFOs, because I was like, you know what? I have not FFO'd something in ages. I'm getting a couple of things done. They're not super pretty. They're my first ever attempts at hoop finishes. And I might do some tweaking or some fixing on them, but I have FFOs. I also have a finish to share and a couple of whips. So let's jump right in. Here's the agenda for today. I'm going to share my December stats, FFOs, my finish, my whips, my acquisitions, including some lovely gifts that I received for Christmas from my parents and my children. Then I will share my January stitching plans. I have posted my whip parade, my whip go plans, and my new starts plans. Those videos have been posted over the last week. I will link them at the end of this video if you've not yet watched them and want to. And that's sort of where I go over the three boards that I set up for my whips, my SAFs, starts and finishes, and my new starts. So the January numbers have already been called, so I will share the 6 projects that were called off of my boards for January. And then we'll also spin the wheel for my sort of other whip. That will be the other project I work on in January. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about my plans for my channel moving forward in 2024. So let's jump right in. So through my Notion app, I was able to track all of my December stitching. So good and bad news. I only stitched on 4 projects in December. And in the last 2 weeks, since my last regular Flosstube video, I've only stitched on 2. So I have 2 whips. Actually, I have 1 whip to show you because the other one I finished. But I stitched for 25 total days, including today, because I will be stitching later today. And for the projects that are digital, that I'm able to count my stitches, which one of the reindeer by Cottage Garden Samplings that I stitched on earlier in December is a paper chart. So I track the day, but I don't track the stitch count. But anyway, so I stitched a minimum of 6,500 stitches in December. So that's pretty cool. I had 1 new start and 1 finish, both the same project, which I will show you here in a moment. And so those are my stats for December. All right, so moving on into my FFOs. As I mentioned, I have 2 FFOs. They are both hoop finishes, and they're all right. So the first is the Crow, which is from the Friendstitch and Halloween. So it's not perfect. You can see I have it pulled a little unevenly here. I might try and go back and fix that. But this was my first ever hoop finish. And what's really cool is for Friendstitch, they sent this cool little backer for it, so it kind of hides the mess back there. But that is the Crow, which was a collaboration project between, I'm gonna have to fix this because it's bothering me, which was a collaboration between Bent Creek and Heart and Hand. So that is my first FFO. And my second FFO is my Positively Bedeviled chart. So this is going to go hang in my office. This one I did second. I did the Crow first. I did this one next. So it's a little bit better. Again, not wholly centered. And I did put some interfacing on the back. So for the Crow, the instructions that they provided were actually to put a second piece of linen in the back so that light wouldn't show through. And to give a little bit of extra thickness. I actually put a piece of felt back there because I didn't want to use a piece of linen. I'm like, I can stitch on that. So it's a little bulkier and it's very padded on the front, which I actually kind of like. But for this one, I just put some interfacing on the back, and I realized when I flip it over that the interfacing doesn't go all the way up to the top. So that's kind of annoying, but I think I'm only noticing that because I have my light shining. So it's shining through. I think when it's hanging on the wall, I don't know, you'll either notice it more or you'll notice it less. We'll see. But that is Positively Bedeviled. And the back isn't awful. I have to decide if I want to cut some felt and stitch over it or if I care enough because it's going to be hanging on the wall. But there are my 2 FFOs, my very first ever hoop finishes. I'm pretty proud of them. Yay! Okay. Then my finish is my Modern Folk Embroidery Evertote Roxy Flossco Advent Stitch Along. It is fully finished. Or not fully finished. It is all done. This was so much fun to stitch. I had such a good time with this. I don't know that I will do it again because it left me with precious little stitching time to do anything else in December, but it was so much fun. It was so much fun to open the envelope every day and see the beautiful floss. It was nice to have a chart where the daily stitching really was manageable. I think the heaviest day was about 330 stitches. And I think that was the only day where the stitch count was over 300. I think most of the time it was between like 220 and 260, and even a couple of like 180 days thrown in there. So it was super manageable to keep up with. Really, the only time I fell behind was when I was traveling for work, and I was very easily able to catch up the following weekend, which was really nice. So it feels really good to have a finish. So I started this on December 1st. And I actually finished it. It ended on December 25th. I finished it on December 26th. I was busy on the holiday and didn't get the stitching in. But these colors are gorgeous. I wanted to have this FFO for today's video as well. But on the 20 count Aida, it ended up being sort of a weird size, right? It is, it's like 5 3/8 by like 7 1/4. So it doesn't fit in a 5x7 frame. And the only larger frame I had was like an 11x13 with an 8x10 mat. And I looked at it and I just felt like it was way too much border. So I think what I need to do is get probably an 8x10 frame, which unfortunately usually has a 5x7 mat in it. But my mom, fortunately, is a custom framer, or was a custom framer, and still has all of her equipment. So she can probably take the mat and cut it out a little bit for me. So because this chart is so vibrant and so full that I really don't want a large border around it. So that's my finish. That is the Modern Folk Embroidery Advent Sale. So yeah. All right. That kept me busy for the last 2 weeks. The only other project I stitched on in the last 2 weeks since my last video was one of my 2 December Whip Go calls. So I am not going to get a blackout on my Whip Go board. I ran out of days. My other chart was the Reindeer by Cottage Garden Samplings, and because that's a paper chart, my goal was a day count, or number of days of stitching, and it was 6 days, and I ran out of days. So I was just like, oh well. This was my very first year doing Whip Go. I set very lofty goals for myself. And so I'm actually really proud that I met all but one of my goals. And I put a project in my free space. So I still met a ton of project goals. I still made a ton of progress. But that one won't get done. This one, though, will. This is Herby Dragons by Modern Folk Embroidery. So here is the finished project. And I stitched this, or I am stitching this, on the Evertote kit. So it is on Evertote fabric and Roxy Flossco flosses. The fabric is a 36 count linen in the color Catnap. The floss is Roxy Flossco Plum Shadow. And my goal is 1,000 stitches. I am currently at, I think, about 846. So I will finish this afternoon. And here is where this chart is now. I will hold it right side up this time. In my last video, I had it sideways. But I mean, it's amazing what, even a few hundred stitches add. So now you're starting to see I have the detail of 2 of the birds. I have a detail of a plant coming out here. I went inside and started on the first word. So that is where that project is right now. So I'll finish my goal today, this afternoon, and then this will get put away until it gets called again. Loving this project. It's lots of fun to stitch. And I love that the floss is variegated enough to, to show on the stitching, but not so variegated that I feel like I have to match things up. So I kind of hop all over this project, kind of depending on where I want to stitch. So like yesterday, I started here. Well, actually, I ended up stitching this inside border, and then I realized, oh, this is an easy count to hop over, stitch here, and then I can hop over and start the H. So I stitched this, and then I hopped over here, and I went up, and then I went over here, and I stitched this, and then I hopped up here, and then I stitched back here this way and up here. So I was kind of all over the chart, but because the variegation is so sort of subtle and mixed, it doesn't matter, right? Sometimes you get those really variegated flosses where you really have to kind of either fussy cut or fussy thread your needle and match up colors. So I like that I can kind of hop around this chart. So that is my only whip in the last 2 weeks, other than the Advent Sal. So not a whole lot of stitching to show you today, but hopefully I've made up for it with my FFOs and finish. Yay. All right, so let's move on to acquisitions. So I didn't really buy much for myself other than some floss. Sorry, ooh, that's really loud. Other than some floss, but which I don't tend to show the floss because we all get floss, right? But I did get this. This was a bonus gift. So when we opened the envelope 25 for the Advent Sal, we had the chart to finish the Advent Sal, and then this chart as well. This small trifle. Really cute. So it says, "This small trifle kindly take and keep it for the giver's sake." Of course, I looked at that and I'm like, that's not that small a trifle there, Jacob. But it's a very pretty chart. So that was an acquisition. And then I also got for Christmas from my kiddos some new embroidery scissors. Sorry, I forgot they were all wrapped up. So I got sort of a 3-pack of embroidery scissors. I forgot they were in plastic bags too. So I got one sort of larger pair and then 2 sort of medium-sized pairs. So nice embroidery scissors are always good. And I also received some of these. Oh, that's very crinkly, sorry. Some of these like wire rings to use for my floss rings. So if you ever order from Roxy Floss Co., if you order a bunch of flosses, she'll often include one of those types. And it's really nice because they're really durable and sturdy and really, really nice that way. I also finally got, so funny story, I was at the Jingle Ball at the beginning of the month, and I was in a stitching room with a bunch of some of my fellow patrons of Michelle Bendy Stitchy, and we're stitching and chatting, and someone commented, oh, Dee just sent out their newsletter, and they have more of their Tunies chart available in their shop right now. And I was like, wait, what? Huh? And so I hop over to my email. I'm like, oh, yes, I have been wanting this chart ever since I saw it because I wasn't at Stitch North last year, but, saw it shared as part of Stitch North in 2023. And I was like, oh my gosh, that chart is adorable. I want it so badly. And the last time they put some up in their shop, I didn't get to them in time. They were gone. So I literally was like, excuse me, and put my camera off and muted myself out of the stitching room and hopped right over to Dee's Ko-Fi and purchased Tunies by Dee's 20 Stitches and Uncanny Kari. So if I recall correctly, the art is by Uncanny Kari, and then Dee turned it into a pattern. Fuzzy little baby. So cute. So I got Tunies. I don't know when I'll stitch it, but so excited. So happy to have that chart finally. And then my last gift, super excited about this. From my parents, I got the Halogo rechargeable magnifier light. So this is recommended by Nicole Spohr and a bunch of other floss tubers as a great portable light for retreats because it is cordless and it folds nice and flat. So it's easy to take with you places. It's a little pricey. That's why I asked for it for Christmas. But it's a nice height. It has fabulous light. Oh, God, I look terrifying there. Sorry. Fabulous light, different light settings. It does have a magnifier in it that I'm gonna have to play with because I tried to use it once and I thought I was gonna make myself seasick because you know, the magnifier stays stable, so you have to keep your stitching stable too or it gets out of whack, and I just was having a hard time. So I'm gonna have to practice with that, I think. But even outside of that, just having the light like right focused over my project is fabulous. So thank you, Mom and Dad, for my Halogo lamp. That's all my acquisitions. So let me kick over, let me find a place to put my lamp. Let me kick over to my plans for January. So as I mentioned, I set up 3 different bingo boards to, you know, sort of play the game of my goals for 2024. So I have a traditional whip go board, though this year I set my goal much lower. It's really more about the fun of playing the game than making huge progress on my whips. Which 2023, I set my board up to make significant progress on my whips, right? It was like 10 days or 1,000 stitches, which was great. But as I've said numerous times already, it really left little time for anything else. And I have a lot of whips and a lot of projects I want to work on. So I would rather make a little less progress on more things than lots of progress on a few things and not touch at all other things. So I have a traditional whip go board. My goal for every project on that board is either 3 days or 300 stitches, depending on whether it's paper or digital chart. And then I have what I'm calling my SAFGO board, which is start and finish is what SAF stands for. So for that board, and I know those of you who watched my plans videos, I'm recapping, apologies, but I'm not going to assume that you have watched that. So really quickly, so my SAFGO board, start and finish, that board is all small charts where my goal is to start and finish the chart in the month that it is called. So, so there's that. And then I have my 24 starts in 2024, which is a hashtag on Instagram. Lots of people are doing that. And a lot of people have chosen sort of significant dates, or they're doing the 1st and the 15th of each month. I didn't want to be sort of that boxed in, and like the charts that I chose are more just, I want to stitch them. Most of them aren't significant to any time of the year or anything like that. I mean, there are some Halloween charts, there are some seasonal charts and things like that, but otherwise it's kind of just a mix of things. So I decided to put them on a board as well, and I will just let fate decide which 2 I work on, and then I'll decide when in the month I want to start them. So Jessie of Jessie Marie Does Stuff, who runs WhipGo, already called the numbers. She pulls them on the 25th of the month before, so on Christmas Day, or actually on Christmas Eve, she pulled them and then released the video on Christmas Day. She pulled the numbers. They are 9 and 22 for January, and so I figured I would show you what I'll be working on in January as part of my boards. And then my last project, I am letting my little tiny decisions wheel decide for me what other whip I work on in the month. So we'll also spin the wheel together so that you can see what I will be stitching on for January in addition to my whips. And then I have 2 other stitch alongs that I am doing in 2024 that will obviously be starting in January as well. I shouldn't say obviously, they don't all start in January, but these will be starting in January as well. So let me show you my plans for January, and then I'll talk a little bit about my plans for my channel in 2024, and then we'll get out of here and go celebrate New Year's Eve. All right, so for my whips that were called, numbers 9 and 22, I don't remember which is which, but one is the Haunted Mansion, which is by Abbie Sue Designs. I will put a picture of the chart, the finished chart here. This was a mystery stitch along that I started for my daughter's birthday and then never finished. But here is where this one sits right now. So I have the border completely done, and I have a start on the first ghost. And so this is a digital chart. So my goal is 300 stitches on this. So that is whip number 1 for WhipGo. And then my second whip is Easter Kitty Moon by Stitchy Kitty. Sorry, my needle minder is sticking to everything. So here is the chart, Easter Kitty Moon. And this was a New Year's Eve new start, or a New Year's Eve 12 by 12 start last New Year's Eve, and I don't think I've touched it since then. So here is where it is sitting right now. And this is a paper chart, so the goal for this will be 3 days. All right, then moving on to what's next in my pile, my new starts. First new start is Coulter the Fox by Frosted Pumpkin Stitchery. So here is a picture of that chart. And, oh no, sorry, I have threads stuck in the zipper of my project bag. There we go. And I am just stitching it on, no, wait a minute, this is not Coulter the Fox. Sorry, this is Scaredy Corns. I picked up the wrong bag. So back up, reverse, rewind, start again. These are my SAFs. Sorry, I thought I saw my Coulter the Fox tag, but he actually is underneath 2 project bags. So we'll do my SAFs first. And I'm actually gonna snip off the tails from serging the fabric. So Scaredy Corns is what I'm going to put up on the screen. This was a Friendstitch bonus pattern, a bonus chart. It was sort of like a chart that was released in advance of Friendstitch to kind of get us excited. So I am stitching this on just a piece of Aida. I think it's 16 count white or cream Aida that was just in my stash. Almost all of these projects I've kitted up from stash. I'm really committing to using as much of my stash as possible in 2024 because I have a lot of it. And here are most of the flosses for Scaredy Corns. I have a couple that I have to pull out of other projects or go borrow from my mom or purchase, but it's just all DMCs. So that is chart number 1 for Safto. So that will be a start and a finish in January. My other start and finish is Can Do Attitude by Silver Creek Samplers. I'll put a picture of the chart on the screen. And I am stitching this 1/1 on 25 count. I think this is actually called Winter Solstice is the name of the fabric. I might be wrong on that, but so I'm going to stitch it 1/1, and I went bonkers with the colors on this one. I'm really excited about them. So I am going super bright with this chart, like neon Lisa Frank bright. So I am stitching with these 3 colors. So the little heart on the chart is going to be in this pink. The background color is going to be in this blue, and then the foreground, the more solid stitching color is going to be in this wild rainbow from Threadworks. So it's going to be super bright, super cheerful. I'm very excited. These flosses are from my friend Jamie at Wonderland Hand Dyed Fabrics. She also dyes flosses under the name Dinah's Ball of String. Yeah, Dinah's Ball of String. These are 2 colors from her Lisa Frank collection. Which, can we see it? Where is it? Oh, you can't see it, it's too small. The Create back there was stitched on her mock turtle fabric with all of the Lisa Frank series colors, which I think I shared that finish in another video. But so that is Can Do Attitude by Silver Creek Samplers. It's going to be super bold, super bright, super adorable. Can't wait. I might start this on New Year's Day because I'm very excited about it. Very excited to see how it comes together. All right, now we're on to the new starts. And the first new start is Coulter the Fox by Frosted Pumpkin Stitchery. Here is a photo of the chart. This was a Jingle Ball exclusive in 2022. I believe it is now available for general purchase. I am going to be stitching this on French Blue by Fabrics by Stephanie. And I did an almost full floss conversion to, I wanted to use more of the flosses from the Modern Folk Embroidery Advent Stitch Along because, of course, you got full cards of full skeins, and as I mentioned earlier, you know, we're only doing 260, 300 stitches with them, so there's lots of the colors left over. So I am very excited to see Coulter with this Roxy Floss Co. floss conversion that I did. So I think all but like 3 of the colors I converted to Roxy Flosco, and then the others I'm just using the DMC. So that is Coulter the Fox. For my new starts, the goal is to get 300 stitches in at least. I figure that's a good solid start. My next start off of my board is the Doctor Who sampler by Armada Designs on Etsy. And I will put a photo of the finished chart here. I am stitching this on a 40 count Gray Magic by Bestitch.me. And I converted the flosses on this one a bit too, because I wanted it to be a little bolder. I wanted, the designer designed it in sort of a more sort of muted, prim color palette, which is beautiful. But I wanted the TARDIS to be like a true TARDIS blue, which there is, I learned when I Googled DMC floss color for TARDIS blue. There's a little debate out there on the internet as to which is actually the TARDIS blue, but it seems like most of people agree that 797 is the TARDIS blue. And then 322 is actually the color that the designer called for the TARDIS. So I'm keeping it in the chart as the accent color on the TARDIS, you know, for like the panels on the door and things like that. But otherwise, I'm going to be stitching the body of the TARDIS in 797. And then I did pull Yonder from the Modern Folk Embroidery Advent Sal, which is a nice, it's, oh God, it's such a gorgeous blue. So gorgeous. And it's just lightly variegated. I'm going to use this for the words, for the darker words. And then everything else is as called for, except for the pink. I didn't have the color called for, so I just picked another pink because the pink is like 18 stitches or something. It's not very many. So that is my other start for January, the Doctor Who sampler by Armada Designs. And again, 300 stitches minimum. Then my other two starts will be my year-long stitch-alongs, which I have shared before, but I'll share again quickly in case you are new to my channel. I did have a huge jump in subscribers after my whip parade, which was amazing. So welcome if you are new here. I hope you'll stick around. And why do I keep holding these upside down today? I mean, other than because I have a paper clip clearly on the bottom instead of the top. So you've seen it, you love it. Everyone, Jacob broke the internet practically when he released it, or at least broke the Flosstuber corner of the internet when he released it. This is no time like the present, the 2024 stitch along. So I am stitching this on just a 28 count white Monaco, and I am stitching with these 2 DMC colors. Let me put them out so that you can see the numbers. I am stitching one variegated in 4522, and then I pulled out the sort of eggplant color from the variegated, which is 154, and we'll be stitching solid with that. So what I am doing, let's see if I can remember now what I am doing. I am doing the, so anything that is red on the photo here, I am doing in the variegated. And then everything that is blue, I am doing in the solid. And I'm going to do some test stitching on a scrap of Monaco today. I'm trying to decide if I want to do 1 strand full cross or 2 strands tent stitch. The tent stitch obviously will go much faster, but I don't know. I've never done anything tent stitch before. I've always been a cross stitch means full cross kind of stitcher, but I also never used to do these large charts or practically full coverage charts. So if I want to get them done before I am 70, I might want to do tent stitch. So that will be starting. I will probably also start this tomorrow, which is why I need to do that tent stitching today and or test stitching today and decide what I want to do. Then on January 10th begins the year-long stitch along from Climbing Goat Designs, Dragons, a field guide. This will be the first release, the border and the first dragon, which is a wyvern. If you have watched my channel for any length of time, you know how much I love dragons. So I'm going to be stitching this on a piece of 36 count ancient. Love this. With all the called for DMC. So, which here are some of them. I mean, obviously the DMC list is all of the DMC used in the chart. I just pulled bobbins that I had duplicates of. So this is not all of the flosses. And then the rest of the flosses I'll just pull as the chart calls for them. So those are most of my January plans. Last thing to do is spin the wheel. So for any leftover stitching time I have, after I reach my goals, I will be spinning the decision wheel for another whip to work on. So here is the wheel. So I have all of my current whips on here. And I'm just making sure that I took out the 2 that I UFO'd. And for the wheel, my intention is that, yeah, I did, that I will stitch on these for as long as I feel like it. So if I'm having lots of fun, I will just stitch until I get tired of stitching on it, or I finish it, or I will, whatever. So I don't have like a set goal for this one. This is just like, what's the other? Because I'm assuming that, with the goals I have for my boards and the amount of time I have in any given week for stitching, with the 2 year-long stitch-alongs as well, I might not have a whole lot of other stitching time available. So this is more just like, oh, those are my kids. This is more just like, how do I fill, any extra stitching? So let's see what my filler project will be. Spin, 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 spin the wheel. Haunted Fur by Kit Bixby. I'll put a photo of that chart up. That's cool. That one's not that far away from the finish, so we'll see. And then for fun, I also made a wheel for board order. Like, what do I want to start? What do I want to work on first? I don't know if I'm going to spin this because I'm excited about a couple particular charts. So I'm probably going to start. I already know what I'm going to stitch, but I made this in case there's a month where I don't really feel strongly about what I want to work on first. I'll let the wheel decide. Okay. So last thing for today, I wanted to talk a little bit about my plans for my channel moving forward. I'm going to pilot backing off on my filming schedule a little bit. So for a couple of reasons, and I have mixed feelings about it. That's why I say I'm going to pilot it. So I currently film every other weekend, and that's typically been enough for me to be able to keep my videos shorter like I try to do. I always try to have my videos be like right around 30 minutes or less. This one's going a little longer, I think, but anyway, I like my videos to be shorter, easily digestible in one sitting, but I like to have, decent content to share too, right? And what I am finding is that in order to be able to do that on an every other week filming schedule, I'm starting to feel a little bit of pressure to stitch for content rather than stitch for myself. And I am finding that it's not leaving me much time to work on the other hobbies and things that I enjoy, like scrapbooking. My daughter is 17, and in her scrapbook, she is still being baptized, which she was baptized when she was like 3 weeks old. So I clearly have a lot of catching up to do on scrapbooks, which is not only because of my Flosstube. I was behind to begin with, but I'm falling further behind. And I also really enjoy genealogy and studying my family history, and I've not touched that in ages. Some of that by choice, but I'd like to get back to it, and I just struggle to see where I'm going to find that time. So I'm going to pilot because I'm also worried, like, I love filming these videos and I love responding to the comments and I love being part of the community. So I'm nervous that backing off to a monthly schedule will make me feel like I'm losing that, but we're going to try it and see. I've been doing kind of a lot of reflecting on, what are my priorities and what are the things I really want to see progress on or completion of in 2024. And what do I need to do to make that happen? And I think that, every other weekend I spend, upwards of 4 to 5 hours preparing for filming, editing, uploading, stuff for Flosstube. And so if I'm only doing that once a month, then that's time I get back. We'll see. Actually, I'm going to pilot it. So I will film. I'm filming today. Obviously, my intention is I will film sort of the last weekend of the month. So you won't see me again until the end of January. My hope is I'll have lots of significant stitching to be able to share with you, and hopefully still be able to keep it right around 30 to 35 minutes in length. But that's kind of where I'm at. That's kind of what I've been thinking, sort of the end of the year as I reflect on, what went well in 2023, what I accomplished, what I didn't accomplish that I wanted to, and how can I make changes moving forward. That's kind of what I settled on as one area where maybe I can feel a little less like I'm stitching for content rather than stitching for myself, which is really what it's about. Stitching is my favorite hobby by far. It is stress relief for me. And I want it to stay that way, right? Like I don't monetize my channel. I'm not doing this to make money. So while I guess technically I'm a content creator, like I am not a content creator, right? I am a stitcher who likes to share my stitching with others in the Stitchy community. So hopefully that's not too upsetting to anyone. Hopefully you'll choose to stick around and check out my videos still, even though there will be less frequency. And then we'll reassess after a few months, or I'll reassess after a few months. If I'm really missing talking to you all more frequently, I might come back to the every other week schedule and just find other ways to adjust my schedule and my priorities and my timing. So that was a very long-winded explanation to say, moving into 2024, I am going to move to just a monthly filming schedule. And my intention is to film the last weekend of each month. So yeah, that's everything I have for you today. I wish all of you just the very happiest of New Year's. I hope that you have time to spend the day in the way that you wish, and that you are able to start the new year in the way that you wish. And I just, as always, just wish you all the best. Thank you so much for being part of my Stitchy community. I will see you again in a month, and we'll see how things go from there. We'll see whether I have 2 finishes to share with you, which by the end of January, hopefully I will. Happiest of New Year's to all of you. And I will see you when I see you. Hug your loved ones. Take care of yourselves. I will see you in the new year. All the best. Bye.